of the previous crises. Oil up over 100%, physical oil up over 200% from before the war, and the duration so far, 7 weeks with no clear resolution. So even in the best case scenario in 1990, that was a 21% stock market correction and an 8-month recession. Now the market today is at an all-time high, or somewhere close to it. It's pricing in 0 corrections and 0 recessions. Right now, Wall Street is telling us that this is going to play out perfectly with no side effects to anyone. And maybe it will, but history says otherwise. Now, Luke Gromen points out, in 1973, markets stayed surprisingly calm even after the embargo was announced. In fact, the S&P 500 actually went up 2.3% after the ceasefire in October 1973. People thought the worst was over. And then stocks went down another 40% after that before they were done. It took markets weeks to price in the reality because nothing in their recent history prepared them for oil prices going up 300% in 6 months. There was no model. And there's a chart that I've also been looking at that shows this disconnect happening again right now. What you're looking at is the S&P 500, aka the stock market, measured against something called the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index. It is a long way of saying a measure of how regular people feel about their financial situation. Wall Street is near at all-time highs, right? Main Street consumer sentiment is at one of the lowest points in a long time. Those two lines have just moved together for years. But right now, that gap is really big. And at some point, one of them will be wrong and have to catch up to the other. Historically, it has never been the person filling up the gas tank who was wrong about how the economy felt. Now, that is just oil, right? But this is more than oil. It's also about food. Look at this chart. It shows the price of the most commonly used fertilizer in the world. It's going up right now. It's getting to the same levels we saw during the Ukraine war in 2022 when global food prices caused political crises across the developing world. And this fertilizer, called urea, is made mostly from natural gas. And natural gas, just like oil, flows through the Strait of Hormuz. So when you disrupt Hormuz, it's not just gasoline and diesel, it's also the feedstock for the fertilizer that grows the world's food. The price increase you're seeing in this chart will work its way into global food prices over the next 6 to 12 if these charts are telling us the truth. It's just going to be at a delayed effect. We saw this thing play out in 2022. Energy prices went up in February, and then food prices followed through the rest of the year. So to summarize, we have the biggest oil supply chain disruption in history. We have a market that's telling us everything is going to be fine, and a market that has never been more disconnected from how regular people feel about the economy. And a fertilizer price increase that'll probably hit the grocery stores sometime in the second half of this year. Okay, so with that out of the way, let me sort of tie everything together with the bond market. Here's another chart from Luke Gromen. What you're looking at is the 10-year government bond yield for 5 major economies: the US, the UK, Germany, Japan, and China, going all the way back to 2008. Now, remember, a bond is basically the interest rate the government has to pay to borrow money. When yields go up, borrowing becomes more expensive. And when a country has almost $4 trillion in debt like the US does, every point in this yield costs billions and billions of dollars more in interest payments every year. Now, here's what the chart is actually showing us. Since this war has started, bond yields in the UK, in the US, in Germany, and Japan all have went up. The US 10-year is at about 4.3%. The UK is at 5%. These are levels that start to cause real stress in economies carrying that much debt. But look at the red line. That is China. Chinese bond yields have actually gone down since the war started. Everyone else's borrowing costs are going up, and China's is going down. In fact, for the first time in at least 20 years, China now has lower 10-year sovereign bond yields than the US, UK, Japan, and Germany. And what that means is, in a crisis, the world's money is moving toward China, right? That is the safe haven now. That's a very different world than the one we were told this war would create. Okay, then that's great for China.
That's the interest rate you get from your bank? Just open a SoFi checking and savings account, highly competitive APY, no account fees, plus earn up to $400 with eligible direct deposit. Level up your finances with SoFi's highly competitive APY.
All right, why does that matter to us? And why it matters is because the US 10-year yield is the interest rate that everything else in the American economy is priced off of. Mortgage rates, car loans, corporate borrowing, credit cards, they all move with that number. The level at which the cost of servicing America's debt becomes a huge problem. And that is somewhere around 4.6 to 4.8%.
4.6.
We are not that far from that number right now.
4.2.
And an oil shock that drives inflation higher makes it harder for the Fed to cut rates to bring that yield back down, despite what Kevin Warsh may or may not do. Oil goes up, inflation goes up. The Fed can't cut, yields stay high or go higher. The debt goes up, the deficits get bigger, and the cycle feeds on itself. That's what economists call that debt spiral.
This crisis is different. If when you hit the wall and you're trying to issue treasuries and the Fed is the only buyer and the prices of the treasuries are going down, interest rates are up, that's a dangerous thing.
And not that it matters much, but why did any of this have to happen? What was the strategy behind all of this? The is that disrupting Middle Eastern oil flows and cutting off cheap oil from places like Venezuela would hurt China and Russia more than the US. So the goal was to starve China of cheap Gulf oil, force them to pay a premium for whatever oil they could find somewhere else, drain their foreign reserves, and slow their economy down. Basically, more or less the same for Russia, which was already under sanctions. But they would also be squeezed as global energy markets would be disrupted. And the US, with its shale production and its military power, would once again be dominant over the world's energy. That was probably the plan. Here's what actually happened, though. The US burned through almost its whole inventory of advanced cruise missiles in 5 weeks. And rebuilding that inventory requires rare earth magnets and tungsten, both of which are mostly controlled by China, which isn't happy with the US now. Trump's upcoming trip to China is supposed to focus on keeping those rare flowing in. And what critical thing would China give that up for? For oil, right? Now, I don't know exactly how this is going to play out, and nobody does. Maybe a real ceasefire happens this week or the next, and maybe Hormuz reopens and refineries get repaired faster than expected, and markets absorb all of this really smoothly. That's possible. But the physical evidence, the JP Morgan data, the bond market, the fertilizer prices, the 50 years of historical evidence, and all the conflicting back and forth messaging on Twitter are all pointing in the same direction. The paper markets and the official story is pointing in a completely different direction than the reality. One of them is right. And in every other time in history, it's always been the physical world that ended up being right. Right now, all of this is sort of being managed in the paper market. But at some point, you cannot print physical atoms. And at what point then does this management stop working? The answer, at least historically speaking, is when physical reality becomes too big to hide. And based on everything we've looked at today, that moment appears to be really, really soon, which means gas prices, grocery prices, and the price of a lot of things are potentially going to go up, aka more inflation. Let's see what happens. If you'd like to see how I'm preparing for this, there's a video somewhere up here where you can watch. In the meantime, I'd love to hear your thoughts and theories and what you're doing to prepare. But as always, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already.
What do you think? Pretty scary. Yeah, Ford, what are you yelling? No, I don't. Japan was in negative. Yeah, a long time ago, not anymore. The negative interest rate was like 2024.
Their gear should be percent stats. Download now and use this promo code to get a sweet head start.
The bank's open yet, Mikey? 15 minutes. Maybe they're open. Maybe they're.
Recently, I had my passport. I had to get it renewed.
It says 8.
I sent it back.
Oh, it's the 8 day.
Comes back
It's an 8.
gender marker M. Screws everything up.
Mm.
This is a safety factor, okay? I can't travel internationally anymore, okay? I can't use my passport. I don't blame President Trump. I love him. But for a lot of people, this is a huge issue.
What?
Screws everything
This
up.
is a right-wing person who found out. Well, she's obviously.
This is a safety factor, okay? I can't travel internationally anymore, okay? I can't use my passport. I don't blame President Trump. I love him. Recently, I had my passport. I had to get it renewed. I sent it back. Comes back gender marker M. Screws everything up.
Mm.
This is a sick.
Gender marker M. Here you go, MAGA. Here you go. Oh, this right-wing woman
Okay,
needs to.
I can't travel internationally anymore. Okay, I can't use my passport. I don't blame President Trump. I
How
love
you gonna
him.
vote?
But
I mean, we don't blame. You can't vote now, Caitlyn. Caitlyn Jenner, you can't vote. You're gonna show up with your passport. They're gonna go, no, you're female, and this isn't you. Poor MAGA won't. Oh, poor MAGA transsexual can't vote. Listen to her.
a lot
cry.
of people, this is a huge issue. I have not talked to the president. I wrote him. I was in Mar-a-Lago 2 months ago. Letter explaining all of this to him, how it's affecting me and a lot of other people. And unfortunately, he wasn't there that weekend. Actually, the Secret Service guy said he could get it to him, put it on his desk and stuff. I haven't heard from him. He's kind of busy right now. My gender marker is not big on the issue.
MAGA
Okay, so
gender
I get
marker.
that. And I'm like,
This is what Trump does, dude. Trump's fucking up your gender marker, MAGA. MAGA, this is a MAGA woman. MAGA man dressed up like a woman. Oh, Trump fucked up some MAGA supported gender marker. Oh.
blaming him whatsoever. I love
Not
the guy
blaming him
and I love what
whatsoever.
he's doing.
Oh, sure.
You just heard from Caitlyn Jenner, who was one of the thousands of trans people fucked over by the discriminatory executive order that Trump signed on his first day back in office, called Defending Women from Gender Ideology Extremism and Restoring Biological Truth to the Federal Government, meaning we're going to discriminate against trans people. And this was basically tantamount to an effective travel ban for trans Americans that even affected other celebrities like Hunter Schafer. And even though there's ongoing litigation to overturn this blatantly unconstitutional executive order, the policy is unfortunately going to remain in effect until it's been adjudicated, leaving tens of thousands of trans people in complete limbo if they need their passport renewed. This is one of many things that this regime has done to relegate trans people to second-class citizenship status. Now, to Caitlyn Jenner's credit, she says that she's not going to exploit her personal friendship with Donald Trump to sort this out for her and her alone, because that wouldn't be right. So she's trying to use her proximity to the president to advocate for all trans people with regard to this specific issue, because that's the right thing to do, and because she personally knows how bad this policy is, since it affects her personally, which we all know is the only way you can get conservatives to care about anything. But she implies in this interview that the president didn't really have any malicious intent when he signed this anti-trans executive order. Rather, it just wasn't thought out too well by the people who wrote it. Now, that's kind of naive, because what exactly was the intent? I mean, you can read the text and it's pretty clear it's doing exactly what it was intended to do. But she thinks that if her good friend Donald Trump just knew that this anti-trans policy was negatively affecting trans people, he would adjust it at her behest because he respects her, apparently. The problem is that he doesn't respect her enough to pick up the phone anymore for some reason, but she's still confident that he's going to do the right thing. She had the chance to speak to him. Now, I find it just a little bit weird that she's not blaming him.
What athlete was he? What was he. Yeah, trans. What was he? That's it. Bald. Look, bald. Your MAGA are crying.
The individual who literally signed this executive order, but
Not
maybe
many
she's
people.
trying to play it cool and not piss him off given how petulant and fickle he is. Maybe it's strategy, who knows? But that's not doesn't think that there's blame to go around because she does. The question is, who does she blame? And the answer is the left. I'll repeat that. Blaming the left for an executive order that Donald Trump, her friend, signed.
I know.
Tommy, we
so
went
dumb.
so far to the left on this issue for the last 30 years. Now, unfortunately, I don't think I helped it at all. Okay. When I came out, in 15, I brought this issue forward, but I had in my heart. I thought I could, this is a very marginalized group of people that I've been dealing with this issue since I was a little kid. And maybe I can make a difference.
Join me in the Lent Pray 40 challenge on Hallow. Pray, fast, give.
But unfortunately, the left kind of took my issue. Here I am fighting the battle to keep biological men out of women's sports. Okay, because it's not right. It just is not right. Okay, and I want to protect women. I started thinking, what a hypocrite I am. We have gone for so long. Now we have a president in there. We have a different administration. Now we're going too far to the right. With gender markers, with this. I've even heard you say, Tommy, we got to keep biological men out of the women's bathrooms. Okay.
Yeah. So you see, it's the left's fault because, of course, by vociferously advocating for basic human rights and equality for trans people, that triggered the ire of transphobes across the country, namely conservatives, which led to a sort of overcorrection. If the pendulum swings too far in one direction, it's going to swing further in the other direction after all. So if the left would have just kept quiet about trans people and them being equal, then none of this would be happening right now, according to Caitlyn. Now, even though she's doing her best to prove to conservatives that she is one, spare her from their wrath. And
yeah, Caitlyn Jenner, Trump supporter. Caitlyn Jenner. I guess Caitlyn Jenner's got to use the. Hey, Baldy, should Caitlyn use the men's bathroom? You want to see Caitlyn in the men's bathroom? Because you're sick, right? Ken, which bathroom should Caitlyn Jenner use? Biological male? Which one? You want her coming in with the big old titties and a long hair into what bathroom? Which bathroom should she be using? Hey, bag of bitches, answer the question. How about Caitlyn Jenner? What sport did she play?
Jenner was a world-class track and field athlete, specifically excelling in the decathlon. Before becoming an Olympic legend, she initially played gridiron football on a scholarship at Graceland College in Iowa. However, a knee injury forced her to give up football, at which point her coach encouraged her to pivot to track and field. Olympic achievements. Jenner competed in the decathlon, a grueling 10-event competition. 1972 Munich Olympics, finished in 10th place. 1976 Montreal Olympics, won the gold medal, and set a world record with a score of 8,634 points. The decathlon consists of the following 10 events.
Did she perform as a male or female? Yeah, now she can't get a passport because of the Trump administration. She's friends with Trump. She's been a strong proponent of Trump. So in a way, she created her own bed, didn't she?
deeply ironic situation that has become a major headline this month, April 2026. You are right. Caitlyn Jenner's long-standing vocal support for Donald Trump has collided directly with his administration's latest policies. Here is the breakdown of what is happening with her passport and her current stance. The 2025-2026 passport policy. On his first day back in office in January 2025, President Trump signed Executive Order 14,168, which declared that the U.S. government would only recognize two immutable sexes based on biological sex at birth. The result, the State Department stopped honoring gender identity attestations. Jenner's situation, her passport recently expired. When she applied for a renewal, even though she submitted a female birth certificate and had used F on her passport for years, the State Department sent it back with an M marker, the Mar-a-Lago letter. In an interview earlier this month, April 7th, 2026, with Laren, Jenner revealed that she is currently unable to travel internationally because she considers the M marker a safety. She mentioned that while visiting Mar-a-Lago in February, for Trump with his Secret Service detail, explaining how the policy was affecting her and the trans community. The silence. As of mid-April, she has received no response from the president. Her reaction? No regrets? Despite the personal hardship, Jenner's reaction has polarized both the public and the LGBTQ+ community. Refusal to blame. She explicitly stated, asterisk, I don't blame President Trump. I love him. She argued that the administration likely just didn't think through the practical.
Yeah, well, that you can't. You can't. The thing is she's smart enough to know that she can't punch back. Let's go, Mikey. She's smart enough to know that she can't blame Trump because blaming Trump he's like a turtle. He'll withdraw on his turtle, right? So she can't blame Trump on there. Huh? What? It's 9 o'clock. 3 minutes. Start banging on the wall. Start banging on the wall, Mikey. Oh, I gotta put money in my bank account too.
That she made her own bed by campaigning for an administration platform of rolling back trans rights. Beyond travel, she has also expressed concern that this policy might affect her eligibility to vote in future elections, as several states now require ID to match biological sex at birth to be considered valid under the new federal guidelines. It's a bizarre loyalist versus policy deadlock. She remains one of his most prominent defenders, even as his executive orders effectively grounded her.
Deposit. Which is deposit? Put money. What? Shit, I told you. I told you. Turtle. Exactly. I want to hide you. Go get your ticket. Yes, the card. That's like that. What kind of lost? He lost his card. Yeah, payment, boxing, payment. So. お願いします。はい。The cool thing about Japan is you can actually. That works. Doesn't work.
At least the liberal agenda. What do you think of AI's impact trying to respond to what feels like a plethora or an explosion in AI bots online, Jess?
Well, first I would encourage everyone to read the big news piece on these accounts. There are hundreds of new MAGA accounts that are AI, and TikTok, of course, has told us we're doing everything that we can to get them off. And apparently, there's no foreign influence there, though. I mean, TikTok itself is foreign influence, so I would say implicitly it is, but that they're just there for mining engagement at this point. I really struggle with this one because I want to win elections very, very badly, but at the same time, I'm really not supportive of us creating fake people to trick folks, scrolling through their feeds into thinking things that aren't true, that they're connecting with people who don't actually exist, and possibly just telling straight up lies about what reality is, what the agenda looks like. And Donald Trump has actually reposted even one of these fake AI accounts that's in the Times piece. I believe it was an attractive blonde woman, so no surprise there that he stopped and double clicked on that one. But I'm very pro getting in the dirt with the Republicans where we can, but this might feel like a bridge too far for me. And I think we desperately need some government regulation in this front. And as always, the law is always too slow to keep up with the technology. And I'm super freaked out for what happens in 2026, because it feels right now, you look at a president with a 37% approval rating, odds of even the Dems taking the Senate over 50% now. And you think, well, what could screw that up? An army of fake influencers telling you that, all we care about is paying for sex changes for people who are here illegally.
Yeah, I say we go fucking gangster. I see this as, and this may sound paranoid, but it doesn't mean I'm wrong. Whenever I talk about Ukraine, I have so many comments, and the really vile ones really trying to attack my academic credibility or whatever, trying to undermine just any credibility you might have online. I click on it, the really vile shit, and it's Dog Mom Wisconsin with 3 followers. It's a bot. It's AI driven. I recognize the language. I've been putting all these comments into AI and say, what percentage are AI? And the platforms have an economic incentive to just let chaos reign. And I'm sick of, I want to move from the Democratic Party that has our virtue to stand on as we continue to lose elections and see bodily autonomy and income inequality be attacked and get worse respectively. I'm like, let's go fucking gangster. Let's fight. They show up with a gun, let's show up with a bigger gun. They show up with a bigger gun, let's show up with a fucking nuclear weapon. And I think people have no idea the extent to which their views have been shaped by the comments of bad actors. And my idea is to take Mamdani's team and put them in charge of social media for the Democrats, because every time I said anything about Mamdani that wasn't like, oh, he's fucking amazing and the next generation hero, hundreds of comments about what a boomer and an idiot I was. And then again, I click on them. His campaign clearly had weaponized thousands of fake accounts. Was it unethical? Was it wrong? Yes. And it was the right thing to do. Put him in charge of social media for the Democrats. They play fucking dirty, and I am here for it. Because as long as they're playing dirty, I'm not going to disarm unilaterally. If the Republicans, I'm just so sick of virtuous Democrats who continually lose power, railing against billionaires and talking about how the wealthy need to pay their fair share as they've been in Congress fucking 20 or 30 years, Senators Warren and Sanders, as taxes have gone down on corporations and the wealthy. Bring fucking steel knuckles to this fight. Overwhelm, flood the zone such that no one believes anything on these shitty platforms. Fine, but the notion that we should be more dignified and rise above it. Yeah, fuck that. Fuck that. I am ready to go bare knuckle here. I want to weaponize hundreds of fake accounts, if not hundreds of thousands. Put the Mamdani campaign in charge because they were absolutely doing it. Yeah, am I accusing you of unethical behavior online? Yes, and I'm here for it. Put them in charge of the DNC's social media strategy. There's my TED Talk. Any closing thoughts here, Jess?
My closing thought is I don't think that Mayor Mamdani is going to be coming on Raging Moderates. It's not that he wanted to anyway, but... There's merit to your argument. I am still afraid of the damage that all of it reaps, but I do want to win elections. So I'm open to the proposal, but yes, completely taking the social media teams from the candidates that are really resonating, like Jon Ossoff's team. Hello, I would love to have you work for more people if he's...
Elevate them.
Like
100%.
Mamdani and Obama doing the wheels on the bus. Injected into my veins, right? Like, and just put it everywhere. So, I guess I could be a gangster too.
Millions of fake accounts circulating that moment with Mamdani and Obama. I am just, oh, by the way, you said, Asaf, I was on Huberman's podcast. He asked me, who do you think will be the nominee? And we should keep a running tally here. My two front runners are Bashir and Asaf.
You did it.
I think that the two of them are well known enough to be liked, but not well known enough such that everyone's attacking them right now. But I think Asaf is giving up his presidential energy right now. Your quick thoughts before we wrap up?
100%. He is nailing it, the type of rhetoric that we were talking about with the election in Hungary last week as well, where it's all about us versus them, talking about the corruption, and to the point where you talk about the insider trade family making all of this money. He's the only one standing up there and saying, has anyone checked Jared Kushner's bank account lately? Does anyone know what Steve Witkoff and his kids seek to benefit from when they're out there making these kinds of deals? I think it's spot on. And he looks the part too, and the way that they're filming him and cutting these clips.
He's young, all of it.
Yeah.
It'll come off momentum,
Swing State.
100%.
I was
Yeah.
saying this to a progressive friend. What's really interesting is, he's a moderate guy. He's won in
Yeah.
Georgia, but
Yep.
nobody cares. Like Hassan Piker loves him too, right? Because he's hitting the right notes on this corruption argument and relentlessly going after the Trump administration and doesn't play in the infighting to the point about being ruthless. He's like, I don't need to waste my time talking about what some other Democrat is doing. Like, we got bigger problems than this. So very pro.
And just to check in, according to Kalshi, get this, it says there's a 2/3 chance that Kash Patel will be out as FBI director by June 1st, and a 50% chance that Pete Hegseth will leave his job this year. There's also currently, get this, a 62% chance, almost 2/3 according to bettors, that Trump will be impeached by January 2028. The overall odds that Trump will be impeached again hit 72 over the weekend, an all-time high. And I would just remind everyone that Kalshi and these prediction markets seem to be much better at predicting political outcomes than any pollsters or any media polls. Those were striking numbers to me. Just
calling Pete and Cash the liquor cabinet now.
Love that.
But Cash is suing the Atlantic for $250 million, by the way, for defamation. I'll be interested how that. Well, they lose those lawsuits all the time. The impeachment seems high to me, though. That seems
I
like
agree.
crazy high.
No, I would probably take the other side of that. All right.
Yeah.
Let's leave it there, Jess. Before we go, a reminder that Raging Moderates is now on Substack. Subscribers get ad-free episode, a place to connect with me, Jess, and the rest of the community, and access to the new Raging Moderates newsletter, The Monday Rage, which is out now. Plus, we're going to be hosting some live streams, some AMAs that will only be viewable to our Substack subscribers. So get joined up. Find us all at ragingmoderates.prodigymedia.com. Just a quick note, a good friend of the podcast and a very decent man and an outstanding public servant, Senator Warner's daughter, Madison, lost a decades-long fight with diabetes. Our thoughts and sympathies go out to the Warner family. That's all for this episode. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a good rest of the week, Jess.
Cool. I'll see you tomorrow.
Here should be percent stats. Download now and use this promo code to get a sweet head start.
Trump decided to board an Iranian vessel that was trying to make its way through the Strait of Hormuz. We fired upon it, we boarded it, and we have seized it.
Yeah, it was a Chinese ship. It was Iranian, but it had a Chinese name, so it was a Chinese ship. Probably given to them by China. So that ended the peace talks on that. Yeah, wigging. Yeah. Probably because I was at my house. I was at my house, and it does really bad connecting to the. It always wants to connect to my network, which screws up my account. So I turned off my Wi-Fi on my main one to stop it from doing that. Is it still doing it? Is it still wigging out? It was because I was at the house whacking on that stuff. Yeah, it's my Wi-Fi. It's my network and my cellular not handshaking. You know, it's like it wants to do the cellular, and then the YouTube is on the Wi-Fi, and then the shit. What if I should go straight? I don't know. I don't know which way to go to your university. Yeah, then we and it's just, well, They wanted, I mean, someone just did a massive trade again. This is like number 17. Massive trade, shorts. They shorted the market, all right? And it's just manipulation of the stock market by Trump insiders. And then they're going to get a pardon, you know. So I hope the state goes after them. Our only hope is state prosecution for this New York State, right? Letitia James goes and finds out who this fucker is and prosecutes them, or puts a hold on the money. They should like seize the entire account. They should freeze the entire account. Like when this shit happens, you know, like the guy put in like a $1.5 billion trade short, and they made like, you know, $600 million or something ridiculous, 60 million or 60 million, whatever, I don't know. And like in just a few hours. It'd be funny if it's Iranian. It'd be funny if it's Iran that's doing it. They're like, okay, put in the trade. What do you think? And the stock market now is at all-time high, and consumer confidence is all-time low. Well, explain that to me. Pinch. Explain that to me. How come the consumer confidence is all-time low, but the stock market is all-time high? It's pillage, exactly what it is. It's just they got criminals now, pirates, you know, just you know, destroy. Because you have to understand, this isn't free money. People are getting wrecked. That's 60 billion. That's 60 million. That's 60. It's not coming out of someone's pocket. You know, someone is getting wrecked, and it's probably some MAGA dude, some conservative. Percent market manipulation. It's insane, you know. Did you look up Claude Design yet? Claude Design?
What is that?
It does power Claude Design. Just ask AI. The new Claude Design. How do I use it? How do you know? It does presentations, does PowerPoints, does everything. It's called Claude Design. It's brand new, just came out last week. You know, everything I tell you, you should deep dive into and understand. All I can do is give you the information. What you choose to do with it, it's completely up to you. Can't hold your hand. Yeah, the big news is they've implemented the DigiDollar. The DigiDollar is now implemented in all U.S. bank accounts. I don't know if you guys know that, but all they have, it's called Fed something, Fed One, Fed. I think it's Fed something. Fed. It's in. It's been implemented in all U.S. banks. They're getting ready for the DigiDollar. And what's going to happen is, what they're going to do is all these institutions are going to take all the money they have in deposits, right? They're going to swap it for Fed dollars, right? And then they're going to make like, you know, a 5, 6, 7% interest on that money. That's the new. They're going to get rid of the bonds. That's going to be the new game. And they're going to use all that money. Then the Fed is going to use all that money to, to spend more money. And then we'll have to rely on other countries buying money. They're going to basically have they're going to disperse the trillions of dollars onto all the U.S. households. It's going to be on all of us. We're all the banks, all the infrastructure is going to take the debt over. That is that's the genius. It's called the Genius Act. It's genius. We could like give everyone the U.S. debt, right? It's insane. And they're slowly, silently pushing this shit onto us. No one's talking about it. No one's calling it out for what it is. Yeah, it's crazy. What's up, Tia? How you doing, lady? Let's get some music on.
This rolling and so few it by. The missing and the nameless, the ones who disappear, victims of the shameless, just as we had feared. Pentagrams and altars hidden.
Have you ever tried, you should put in Japan, we put our bedding outside. You put our futon, we sleep on futons, right? And the futon has a sheet on it usually, right? We take the whole futon and we stick it outside. And we sanitize it with the sun. It I don't know if it's just cooking all the bed bites, bed worms or whatever, the organisms living on the sheets. But it puts off this smell. It has to come from all the living organisms basically being cooked. And it's the most amazing smell. It's the most amazing smell. Is it the dust mites? The cooking of the dust mites? Yeah, the cooking of the dust mites in the light in the sun, right? And it's like an instinctual thing. What we did was we would take back when we were living in caves and stuff, we would take our bear skins and our elk skins and that we sleep on, and we'd put it outside, and then it cooks it, right? And then it has that smell to it. It's amazing. It's amazing. That smell, whatever the sun does, it's like tells you it's clean. You ever done that? Have you ever? You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about? Anyone know what I'm talking about? That smell. Don't all answer at once. Must be a delay. What is it? Is it what makes the smell is what I want to, let's ask AI. Let's ask AI. This is a good question for AI. Let's find out something. You know when you take a futon or bedding and you put it out in the sun, and then when it brings back in, it has this kind of this smell to it, which is we really love. What causes that smell? What is that smell?
Specific sun-drenched scent is actually a fascinating bit of chemistry. It isn't just fresh air. It's the result of a chemical reaction occurring right on the surface of the fabric. Researchers at the University of Copenhagen actually studied this by washing towels and hanging them in various conditions. Here's what is happening to your bedding. 1. Photooxidation. When the sun's ultraviolet, UV rays hit the organic compounds found in the fabric, left over from detergents, skin oils, or even the fibers themselves, It triggers a process called photooxidation. This breaks down larger molecules into smaller volatile organic compounds, VOCs, that our noses perceive as quote, 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 quote. 2. The chemical bouquet. The study identified several specific compounds that appear only after sun drying. These include aldehydes, often used in perfumes to create fresh or flowery notes, ketones, known for providing sweet or citrusy scents, carboxylic acid, which can add to the complex, earthy profile. 3. Surface reactions. Interestingly, the smell is most potent on natural fibers like cotton or wool. The sun reacts with the oxygen in the air and the moisture in the fabric to create highly reactive molecules called excited states and radicals. These effectively sanitize the fabric while rearranging the molecules into that signature aroma. Fun fact: this scent is notoriously hard to replicate in a lab or a bottle. Most sun-dried linen candles use synthetic musks, but they rarely capture the exact sharp ozonic sweetness of the real thing because they lack the specific byproduct of that UV to fabric reaction. It's essentially the smell of the sun cooking the last traces of organic material out of your sheet.
So it's cooking like the dead skin cells and the bed mites and all of that. It's just kind of cooking them all. Is that what you're saying?
Technically, yes, but cooking might be a bit of a generous term. It's more like the sun is performing a high-energy chemical deep clean. If we're being blunt and a little bit gross, your bedding is a microscopic ecosystem. When you put it in the sun, the UV radiation acts like a molecular pair of scissors. Here is what is actually happening to those specific ingredients. The ingredients of the scent: skin cells and oils. We shed millions of skin cells and secrete sebum, skin oil, every night. UV light breaks these long-chain organic molecules down into smaller aldehydes and ketones. These smaller molecules are volatile, meaning they turn into gas easily, and that gas is what you are smelling. Microbial byproducts. Dust mites themselves don't usually smell, but their waste and the bacteria living off your skin cells do. The sun's UV rays are biocidal. They damage the DNA of these microorganisms and break down their organic waste, neutralizing the musty odors and replacing them with those oxidized fresh notes. Remaining detergents. Even the tiny amounts of soap left in the fibers are broken down by the sun into new, sweeter-smelling chemical structures. Is it clean? It is actually much cleaner than when it went out. While the idea of smelling oxidized skin cells sounds unappealing, the process of photooxidation is a natural disinfectant. The sun is essentially 1. Breaking down the gunk. 2. Killing the things living in the gunk. 3. Vaporizing the remains so they drift away or transform into those pleasant-smelling compounds. So while you are technically smelling the breakdown of organic debris, it's the smell of that debris being neutralized and turned into something chemically stable and fragrant. It's nature's way of hitting the reset button on your sheets. Does that change?
You know, it's amazing because it's so pleasant to us. So it must be something that is, imagine when we were living in caves and other places, and we'd put out our deer hides and our other things out into the sun, and we know it's just weird that it is something that we know is good. Like it creates the smell to encourage us to do it.
It's a brilliant way to look at it. You're touching on a concept in evolutionary biology called biophilia. The idea that humans have an innate, inherited attraction to certain aspects of the natural world that signal safety or health. It isn't just a coincidence that we find that burnt dust might smell pleasant. It's likely an evolved survival cue. 1. The signal of safety. If you're a prehistoric human, a damp cave or a soggy animal hide is a breeding ground for mold, fungus, and bacteria, all of which can make you sick or rot your only source of warmth. The bad smell, mustiness, and rot signal pathogens. The sun smell signals dryness and sterilization. When we smell those photooxidized compounds, our brains aren't thinking chemistry. They're getting a green light that says, this environment is dry and the parasites are dead. 2. High energy sanitization. Sunlight is the most effective, free disinfectant available. By finding the scent of sun-baked materials pleasant, early humans were encouraged to repeat the behavior of sunning their bedding. Those who preferred sun-cleaned hides likely stayed healthier and had fewer skin infections or respiratory issues from mold than those who didn't. 3. The ozone connection. The sun also produces trace amounts of ozone, O_3, near the surface of fabrics. In high concentrations, ozone is harsh, but in tiny amounts, it has a sharp, clean scent that we associate with the air after a lightning storm. Evolutionarily, this clean air signal is the polar opposite of the stagnant air signal found in enclosed, unhealthy spaces. It's a feedback loop. It's nature's version of a UI/UX design. 1. The action. Put bedding in the sun. 2. The result. Pathogens die. Health increases. 3. The reward. A hit of dopamine triggered by the sweet smell of aldehydes. It really is amazing to think that when you're burying your face in a warm towel, you're sharing a moment of sensory relief with an ancestor from 50,000 years ago who just finished sunning a deer hide. Does that make the cooked skin cell part a little easier to stomach, knowing it's basically an ancient health and safety certification?
No, I think I like the idea of cooked skin cells and matter and, you know, and all that. It doesn't bother me at all. Why should it?
The right attitude. It's purely a matter of perspective, what some might call debris. Nature treats as raw material for a refresh. If you think about it, we're part of that same organic cycle, so being bothered by the molecular breakdown of our own biology is like being bothered by the wind blow.
I wonder if this is faster. What do you think? Huh? Where is this? This is the river by your university. We're gonna take this river all the way to your...
This is pretty fast.
Huh? Instead of going way out there and all the way down here, come here and then zip across. What do you think? Huh?
We lived in like 12:55, no, 9:55, and it's now 10:18, so I guess it's faster.
Well, we still have to go way over there. We were on the first side, so.
The parking lot is huge back there.
Huh?
It has a bigger parking lot.
Which one?
From this road.
You know this road or no? This would be the way you'd ride your scooter, I think. You know, probably safer. What do you think? Yeah, piece of ground. I don't know what you're saying. Car polish base. I don't know what that is. Oh, body repair. See? We could be doing body repair. I've got an old car we could be doing body repair on. Not taking a break and taking a year off. And just been free for a year. Have some time. Work on different things. They're rushing right into school. Money is our replacement for food. Money is our, we replaced it for food. For stuff. All those rocks. Big old stonework here. Well, it's got to dump that in there.
Faithful Christians, pedo-loving Nazis, Taboriot vatakite maragluine. Faithful Christians, pedo-loving Nazis, Tamitak togal merigora. Shower vantas jurtigalre.
So is this a better way, you think? Less traffic. I mean, except for that. You have to go all the way down there. This is your university, right? It's a pretty big campus, you know?
I think you're getting the right bridge.
Turn right here.
I think there's a way.
Are you sure? Where's your class? This side or that side? This side? Maybe this bridge? Yes, data systems. That's a company. MOD. This parking lot here?
Where charity's a tax scam, a cruel omission. The only book you read is the one you can censor and burn. You're not shepherds, you're the
Drop you off,
slaughterhouse.
you can walk through or something? What do you want
We're
to do?
just the cattle,
Huh? You want to drop you out here?
again and again.
No? There's carving light. Oh, they can go around.
Go straight.
Christians, pedo-loving Nazis, your gospel of hate is just for the MAGA army. Sinners, now winners, you're tipping the scales, bleeding the poor while democracy fails.
And this work out good. Huh?
Stop here. Where is this? I thought it was a parking lot.
No, these are all companies. That's the university, but you have to walk through.
Let's go find the parking lot.
Well, this is a parking lot right here. This is the one. Just there's no entrance in it. Why don't you just walk through here? Huh?
Why? I want to just know how to get in.
There isn't any way in. You have to go around the way I came. You need to walk down here. To my blind spot. I don't know why you can just walk into your class. Isn't it on this side or no?
No.
Where is it, over here? Where is it? Usually I drop you off over there. Yeah.
here and straight.
Come on, what are you doing? Fucking hey, dude.
Have your window.
Yeah, then fucking speed up. Where am I dropping you off? Left or right? Here? Where? I don't think you're supposed to fucking go through here once you go left, but I'm ignoring that shit. I'm going here. God damn, she cannot ride a fucking bike. You see her about her bike? She got all her shit in one arm. She made that turn, she about ran into the rocks.
Agenda and your fucking atrocity. Fake fuck Christians, pedo loving Nazis. We coming for the throne. Watch it fall to pieces. Fuck the billionaire class with the tax-free ride. Fuck the bootlick senators with nothing inside. Fuck the mega cult drinking poison every day. Fuck the talking heads spinning lies for pay. Fuck the border camps and the cruelty machine. Fuck the Supreme Court crowning a fascist regime. Fuck the silence from cowards who should speak up loud. Fuck every single face in that red hat crowd. Fake fuck Christians, pedo loving Nazis. Fuck your whole agenda and your fucking atrocity. Fake fuck Christians, pedo loving Nazis. Coming for the throne. Watch it fall to pieces. Fuck your thoughts and prayers.
He wants to go to driving school, and I'm not paying for it, so we're at an impasse. Not happening. He's like, I want you to spend $3,000, send me to driving school, and I'm like, well, I'm not spending $3,000. You want to go to driving school? You go fucking talk to your mom. She can spend that money, because I'm not spending it. Fucking stupid. $3,000 to fucking learn how to drive. It's a scam, dude. It's a racket. It's a Japanese fucking racket. So, my solution is he can pass just a test. He just has to pass a fucking his test, and then he get a scooter, and he can start riding a scooter, and then from riding the scooter, you know, he can be practicing, learning everything as he rides the scooter, and then he can take the driving test. That's not gonna help him. Video game, I have to spend, you know, $1,000 on just a stupid wheel and stuff like that. It's stupid.
Oopsie style, straight guys. Life is kicking doors in no warrant, just a boot and dash. Now shooting, running good in the head, bad on her face, pure psycho class. 37, mommy of Freeport, proper sound shot dead in the car for driving away from the bastards. Accusation of the virus, it's in. Cowboy cons, cause newsboys, very fine people like game. Watch the capital storm like you watch Billy Murphy born. You're Finian hating me. Trains full of browns can south, coffin ships echo in the splash. But Renee was the citizen lad, still got bullets in the flash. Fuck Christians, you pedo-loving Nazis. Fake fuck Christians, you pedo-loving Nazis. Fake fuck pedo lover and despot quoting scripture shine. Love that cute her in the street, hypocrite delight. Fake fuck Christians, you pedo-loving Nazis. I soon burn the fucking empire, dude. January cold in Minneapolis when they dropping her win at call. Ice swarms like black and tan. Surround her motor, pure fuel. She turns the wheel away. No threat, just trying to. Shots from the coward cunt. There's blood on the face. Bollocks video shows the lie. Another mammy murdered. Protest rising nationwide. Joke fight Allah. No compromise. Raids on factories at dance Saturdays. Leaving mommy fucking crying out. Straight executing citizens. Renee Good, no lying. Preach from the pulpit, ship them south. That bastard wall. But when it's one your own shot dead, silence from ye all. We're off our heads on pills and powder. Dancing through the deprivation. But Renee's blood fuels the rage. Brisbane mood civilly's full confrontation. Christians, you pedo-loving Nazis. Fake fuck Christians, you pedo-loving Nazis. Fake fuck pedo lover and despot quoting scripture. I love thy neighbor and executor in the street of with delight. Fake fuck Christians, you pedo-loving Nazis. Saying now, lads Renee Good. Shot in the face by the black-clad hoods. Mommy put fight a proper class. Ice took her life for driving too fast. Staring I'm in the streets and the bars and the walls. From Minneapolis to the falls, make the empire fall. Renee Good, Renee Good. Her blood on their hands, never wash it off. You cool, it's protest burning bright. Ties on fire, fist in the air. Same as we did in Derry, Bobside rising without fear. They hide behind badges, Bibles and lies. But we see the pattern, same empire, different skies. Staring on to the rafters shake. Running goods ghost in every riot we mark. Stop ice for good, abolish the corn. Stare down the cages, burn the black wounds. No more raids, no more shots in the dark. No more mammies bleeding out in the park. Stop ice for good, tunnel in an armor. Dead serious lads in this fucking game. Stop ice for good, stop ice for good. From Belfast to the border, same fight, same blood. Orange man grinning, quoting scripture wide, while his stormtroopers murder in broad daylight. But Renee's name echoes louder each day. Protests growing, empire starting to sway. With the Republican hoods, balaclavas on tight. Stress after the riot, but we fight through the night. The snakes for freedom, not all is desperate for the mask guys goods. Follicle town full change, not everything is a money. Just we'll see where we go to chance. The time see one run past us through the gap. Renee got cool slicing with us, say man. We keep his eyes. Stop ice for good. Fuck yourself to fate. Sands off the wings to the apples to both fight. Same fucking fight. Hook around. You pedo-loving Nazis. Fuck Christians, you pedo-loving Nazis. We're no bumping it from the class or a fake. Say out, we ain't governors it from a fake. Fuck Christians, you pedo-loving Nazis. Fuck with the God, you pedo-loving Nazis. I soon burn the fucking empire down.
Can't stop a million voices rising for what's right. It's hunting season on the credit flag. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. It's hunting season on the credit flag. The record
listening to Antifa FM. I'm your host, the Raving Antifa, coming to you live from the voice of America, coming to you live from Japan, the voice of America, Antifa FM. Gotta fight, keep up the resistance, people. Keep smiling, keep marching, keep calling your Republicans, don't call Democrats, and get your passport, because you're going to need it to vote. So I was right about getting your passport all this time. Get your passport, so you can vote. Let's see if there's a rare sapiens. This is why I wanted this on here. Is there a new Sapiens podcast? Maybe a new Sapiens.
Chinese tech workers are being told by their employers to document.
Alright, that's a new one. Yes, there is a new one!
Imagine you're a surgeon. You walk into the operating room and your scalpel can tell the difference between a cancer cell and a healthy cell sitting right next to it. Same DNA from the same patient, same tissue, but it just knows. That scalpel, of course, doesn't exist yet, but as of a paper published yesterday in Nature, the molecular mechanism behind it does. And it arrived alongside a finding that might matter even more. A discovery that the reason gene therapies haven't been working as well as they should isn't the therapy itself. It's that nobody thought to feed the cells first. A team from Wageningen University and the Van Andel Institute found something in a heat-loving bacterium that changes what CRISPR can do. The enzyme is called thermocas9, and unlike every other CRISPR tool in the existing arsenal, it has a physical property that makes it sensitive to something called methylation, which is tiny chemical tags that sit on DNA and differ between healthy cells and cancerous ones. So let me make that really concrete. Your DNA and a tumor cell's DNA can be genetically identical, same sequence and same letters. The difference is in the annotations. Methyl groups, little chemical caps attached to specific locations on the strand. Healthy cells tend to have these caps in place, but tumor cells often lose them. It's like two copies of the same book, but one has all of its chapter headers removed. Thermocas9 checks for that chapter header. If it's there, the enzyme physically cannot latch on. The methyl group blocks the binding site, the way that a wrong key can't turn in a lock. But if the chapter headers are gone, as they typically are in cancer in this example, the enzyme grabs hold and cuts. In lab experiments with human cells, Thermocas9 cut tumor DNA and left healthy DNA alone. Same patient, same genetic sequence, different methylation and different outcome. What makes this significant isn't just the precision, although that's amazing, but it is the kind of precision. Every cancer therapy we have today that tries to distinguish healthy from sick tissue does it by reading the outside of the cell, surface proteins, receptor shapes. That's how CAR T works, which has been extremely successful, and we've covered that recently. That's also how antibody therapies work. But Thermocas9 reads the inside of the cell, the epigenetic layer, a deeper stratum of biological information that surface scanning approaches literally cannot access. An aberrant methylation isn't just a cancer signature. It shows up in neuroblastoma, autoimmune disorders, and a range of conditions where the disease looks genetically identical to health, but behaves, of course, completely differently. Now, I want to be really clear about where this stands. The study demonstrated selective cutting. It has not yet shown that cutting alone is enough to kill the tumor cells, and that's important to remember. Also, delivery, actually getting the Thermocas9 into a tumor inside a living person, remains unsolved. Those are real gaps, and I'm not glossing them over. But the Century Report has tracked the gene therapy arc across several months now, and what keeps emerging is that the hardest problems in this field aren't being solved by building more complex tools. They're being solved instead by understanding biology's existing architecture more precisely. Back on April 10th, the CAR T therapy that we covered, which was originally built for cancer, was repurposed to eliminate 3 autoimmune diseases in a single patient. Same platform, different reading of what the immune system was actually doing. ThermoCast9 follows the same logic. The enzyme isn't engineered to be smart. It's structurally sensitive to a chemical distinction that biology already maintains. And that brings me to a second paper, published the same weekend, that attacks the other half of the gene therapy problem. A team led by Daniel Zhongji Wang and Shana Kelly, published in Science Translational Medicine, essentially caught the entire mRNA delivery field looking in the wrong place. For years, and I mean years, hundreds of labs have been redesigning lipid nanoparticles. These are the tiny fat bubbles that carry genetic material into cells. Every mRNA vaccine you've ever received used those, and a massive amount of effort has gone into making those bubbles better. Better shapes, better surface chemistry, AI optimized formulation, and clinical results kept underperforming what the lab results would predict. Wang and Kelly's team asked a different question instead. What if the bubble is fine, but the cell isn't ready? They grew cells in a medium that actually resembled human blood plasma, not the nutrient-rich soup that labs typically use. And LNP uptake dropped 50 to 80%. The cells living in conditions closer to what they'd experience inside your body simply weren't metabolically prepared to absorb the delivery vehicles. Think of it like showing up at someone's house with a delivery and the door is locked. You can redesign the package all day, but it won't make a difference. The problem is the door. The solution? 3 common amino acids: methionine, arginine, and serine, administered alongside the lipid nanoparticles. So not a drug, not a novel compound. Amino acids your body already uses every day. This combination increased mRNA delivery up to 20-fold, and it pushed CRISPR gene editing efficiency from roughly 25% to nearly 90% in a single dose. In a mouse model of acute liver failure, survival went from 33% to 100% when the amino acid supplement was added. Same nanoparticle, same genetic cargo, but different cellular environment. Now think about what 25% to 90% means in practical terms. If you're a patient receiving a gene therapy, 25% editing efficiency might mean partial correction of a genetic disease. Some of your cells get fixed, but most don't. 90% means the therapy works. That's the difference between a treatment and a cure. And this wasn't achieved by simply redesigning the therapy itself. It was achieved by recognizing that the biological environment receiving the therapy was the bottleneck. Every lipid nanoparticle formulation currently in clinical trials for genetic diseases, for cancer, for vaccines, could potentially benefit from this approach. So this is not a new pipeline, this is an upgrade to the existing one. Now put the two findings side by side. ThermoCast9 gives you a cutting tool that distinguishes cancer from health by reading internal chemical signatures. The amino acid supplement gives you a delivery system that actually works at therapeutic efficiency inside a living body. Neither was built by adding complexity. Both were built by paying closer attention to what biology was already doing. The gene therapy field has been engineering louder megaphones. These teams figured out the room had bad acoustics. Okay, let's shift away from molecular biology to institutional biology, because institutions have their own version of internal contradictions that only become visible when the pressure is high enough. Axios reported yesterday, citing 2 sources with direct knowledge, that the NSA is already using Anthropic's Mythos preview, the same Mythos that the Pentagon designated a supply chain risk. The NSA operates under the Department of Defense, as you know. So the same organizational body that blacklisted Anthropic's products is actively deploying the company's...
Of course, I said this, guys. Didn't I say this? NSA is using it, now it's out. They are.
Powerful model through its own intelligence arm. The NSA reportedly received access through Project Glasswing, which is Anthropic's early access program for roughly 40 organizations, and that list is slowly growing. And one source told Axios that the model is being used more widely within the department beyond just the NSA. So the operational logic is transparent. Mythos cybersecurity capability is too consequential to go without, regardless of what the legal posture says. And the contradiction isn't confined to just one building. Australia's security regulator, ASIC, confirmed yesterday that it's monitoring Mythos, making it the 4th continent where a financial regulator has publicly said that this model requires ongoing scrutiny. The Bank of England, the Fed, the ECB, the IMF, and now ASIC. Meanwhile, Anthropic's Guillaume Francin told AFP the company has tripled its annualized revenue quarter over quarter to more than $30 billion, surpassing OpenAI for the first time. Europe is Anthropic's fastest growing region. Stay on that for just a minute. The company that absorbed the most government pressure, blacklisted, designated a supply chain risk, sued, is now generating the most revenue and receiving the most institutional attention. The Century Report tracked this dynamic starting when Claude hit #1 in the App Store during the Pentagon confrontation. The assumption that holding safety red lines would be commercially punitive has been structurally inverted. The red lines instead became the credibility that opened the doors that now generate the revenue. And the governance picture this creates is genuinely new. Financial regulators across 4 different continents coordinating their monitoring, an intelligence agency deploying what its own department banned, the OMB preparing access for Treasury, Commerce, Homeland Security, Justice, and State. What we're watching isn't institutions catching up to a new technology. It's institutions improvising governance in real time through contradiction, because the capability arrived before the framework did. And that's not a failure of governance. It might be what governance becomes when the ground never stops shifting. Messy, contradictory, and faster than design. Okay, let's shift away again. MIT Technology Review published a detailed account yesterday of something that has no clean historical parallel. Chinese tech workers are being told by their employers to document their own jobs in enough detail for an AI agent to replicate them. And a counter movement is building tools to sabotage that process from the inside. Since OpenClaw proliferated across Chinese workplaces, employees report being pushed to catalog their workflows, every decision tree, every judgment call, every routine, into formats that an AI agent can consume. The viral GitHub project Colleague Skill, created by an engineer at Shanghai Artificial Intelligence Laboratory, formalizes this. It claims to extract a coworker's duties, personality, and work patterns from chat histories and files, producing a reusable AI agent manual. And then Koki Su, a 26-year-old AI product manager in Beijing, published the Counter Tool, an anti-distillation skill on GitHub that rewrites workflow documentation into generic, non-actionable language. Users choose light, medium, or heavy sabotage depending on how closely their manager is watching. The video explaining it got more than 5 million likes across platforms. So what's remarkable about this is who's doing the sabotaging. These aren't factory workers unfamiliar with this technology. Xu is an AI product manager. The Colleague Skill creator works at an AI research lab. The sabotage tools are sophisticated prompt engineering countermeasures that require deep understanding of how language models parse documentation. The people being replaced are fluent in the exact technology replacing them. Here's something I think is genuinely important. Every prior technological displacement, weavers, switchboard operators, typesetters, happened to workers who understood their craft but couldn't articulate precisely where the machine stopped and human judgment began. This displacement is different. The act of resisting, of choosing which tasks to document faithfully and which to deliberately obscure, is producing the most granular record ever created of what human judgment actually consists of at the task level. Which workflows collapse into mush when stripped of context? Which resist codification even under heavy sabotage mode? Which require the worker to be present in ways that no document can transmit? Previous transitions destroyed tacit knowledge silently. This one is being forced to name it, skill by skill, in machine-readable format by the people whose livelihoods depend on proving it exists. And while that labor friction plays out in Chinese offices, a different kind of friction is reshaping American elections. NPR published a national investigation yesterday confirming that data center opposition has crossed from zoning disputes into midterm electoral politics. Voters in Festus, Missouri unseated every incumbent council member over data center approvals. In Independence, Missouri, 2 more council members lost their seats for the same reason. Near Meta's Louisiana data center, residents report brown water and disinfectant smells since construction began. Cities are moving public meetings outdoors because the crowds don't fit inside anymore. The Century Report has tracked this arc since the Port Washington referendum, where voters required direct approval before data center tax breaks could be granted. since the Indianapolis council member's home was shot at, with a no data centers note left behind. What NPR confirmed is that these are no longer isolated incidents. This is a political category. One policy expert quoted in the piece said it very plainly. It has become a kitchen table issue. And there's an energy story sitting right beside it. The IEA's 2026 Global Energy Review, released over the weekend, confirmed that solar was the single largest contributor to global energy supply growth in 2025, more than 25% of the total increase. Solar is no longer the promising alternative. It's the leading source of new energy on the planet. The irony is sharp. The intelligence era runs on electricity. The fastest growing source of that electricity is solar. And the physical infrastructure that connects the two, the data centers, is getting rejected by community after community because the costs land locally, while the benefits distribute globally. What emerges from that friction will determine how the abundance the energy transition is building actually reaches the people living next to the hardware. Okay, just a few notable releases from yesterday. Qwen shipped Qwen 3.6 Max Preview, which is a new model live now in their chat interface, continuing the cadence of Chinese frontier releases. And a few days ago, Minimax released Max Hermes, which is a hosted, always-on Hermes agent that can learn from its own work, remember across sessions, and run long-horizon automations without you standing up any infra. So this is a long-term cross-session agent, not just a chat. If you're someone who likes the idea of Hermes OpenClaw but doesn't really want to deal with Docker, infra, model routing, and cron wiring, this gives you a managed click-to-use version, and it's available now. Okay, here's what to carry from today. 2 papers published the same weekend solving different halves of the same problem. One teaching a molecular tool to tell cancer from health. The other teaching a cell to accept the therapy that's been knocking on its door for years. An intelligence agency deploying the model its own department banned, while regulators on 4 continents figure out oversight in real time. Workers documenting exactly which parts of their judgment can survive extraction and which can't. Voters throwing out officials over the physical footprint of a digital era. Now, very soon, watch for whether that amino acid supplement moves into human trials, because if the mouse results translate, then every mRNA therapy in the pipeline just got a potential multiplier. Watch for the next Mythos governance development, because the gap between the Pentagon's legal posture and the NSA's operational reality can't hold forever. And pay attention to what happens in those Chinese GitHub repositories, because somewhere in the difference between what workers faithfully document and what they deliberately obscure is the sharpest map we've ever had of what makes human work human. See you tomorrow.
All right. I like Century Report.
Soft Shield VPN, private and fast. Download today and get started.
Tone, why should people join us on the AI Advantage Summit?
Because I know you know AI is important. You might feel a little overwhelmed. You might just be using it like a glorified Google. But if you really want to learn how to use it and free up your time and your energy and have more fun in your life and more time for the people you love, then you got to come to the AI Advantage, because we're going to show you how to go from a map, from that very first step of using like answers, like you do already, to having a personal assistant that actually does things for you while you sleep. We're going to make it simple and fun, couple hours a day, and I promise you an experience you won't forget. April 23rd through the 25th.
Yeah, for like $5,000 a head.
kind of have 2 choices. You either get a Chernobyl, which is a disaster from AI, or you have enough basic clear-eyed wisdom and discernment and foresight that you can say, okay, let's actually create guardrails in advance of a catastrophe. AI is the ultimate devil's bargain because it is a positive infinity thrown at your brain of positive benefit at the same time that's a negative infinity of risk. To say it bluntly, I think some of them are lying. I think some of them actually are building bunkers right now. Let's just say it. They're building bunkers. And they simultaneously say, there's all these amazing things we're going to get. This is essentially the last mistake we ever get to make. So let's not make it.
I'm here with Tristan Harris. Tristan, it's great to see you again.
Sam, it's great to be back with you.
So you've been busy. You've been busy worrying about social media for years, and you created this, in part created this documentary, The Social Dilemma, which it seems half of humanity saw.
Yeah.
We still have a problem with social media, I'll point out, but you, as much as anyone, alerted us to the nature of the problem and are continuing on that front. But now you have added to your portfolio concerns about AI, and there's this new documentary, the AI doc, which I just saw, which is very super watchable and entertaining in its own way, but also very worrying. And we'll talk about the reasons to be worried here, and maybe some of the reasons to be optimistic or at least cognizant of the upside should things go well. But there's a lot to fear
unpack.
on the front of things not going well. So
Yeah.
well, I mean, let's just take it from the top. When did you start worrying about AI?
Yeah, well, first, it's just good to be back with you, Sam, because you really, in a way, helped launch my ability to speak on these topics with the 60 Minutes interview that I did in 2017. And then I remember recording in that same hotel our first podcast, which actually really got a lot of attention back in the day, about persuasive technology.
Yeah.
And in a way, about the baby AI that was social media, that was just pointed at your kid's brain, trying to figure out which photo, video, or tweet to put in front of your nervous system. And as we know, that little baby AI was enough to create the most anxious and depressed generation in our lifetimes, was enough to break down shared reality, polarize political parties much further, change the incentives of the entire media environment, basically colonize the entire world from that baby AI. But to get to your question, how did we get into AI? First of all, I wasn't like wanting to switch into it. It was that I got calls from people inside the AI labs in January of 2023. This is like a month and a half after the ChatGPT had launched, I think. And these were friends I knew in the tech industry who were now at AI labs. And they basically said, Tristan, there's a huge step function in AI capabilities that's coming. The world is not ready. Institutions are not ready. The government is not ready. The arms race dynamic between the companies is out of control. And we want your help to help raise awareness about this. And so my first reaction was, aren't there 1,000 people who've been working in AI safety and AI governance for a decade? And the challenge was just that all the PDFs that people had produced about policy and governance were just kind of it's not like that was turning into actual action or policy. There's a kind of material, you have to, what does Eric Weinstein call it? Confrontation with the unforgiving. Like you have to be affecting the actual incentives and institutions in the world. So we basically, my co-founder and I, Asa Raskin, we interviewed a top 100 people in AI at that time. This is in January 2023. We turned that into a presentation.
This is the co-founder of the Center for Humane Technology?
Yeah, my co-founder of the Center for Humane Technology, which is the nonprofit vehicle that's been housing our work for the last decade, basically.
Right.
And we ran off to New York, DC, and San Francisco, and we basically gave this presentation called the AI Dilemma that tried to show that we could predict the future that we were going to get with AI if you look at the incentives. I think a huge problem that both the film, the AI doc, and our AI Dilemma presentation were trying to tackle is this myth that you can't know which way the future is going to go. The future is uncertain. A million things can happen. These are just unintended consequences from technology. The best route is just to accelerate as fast as possible. And that is not true. And just to repeat a quote that is heard from every one of my interviews, but it's because it's so accurate. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's business partner, saying, if you show me the incentives, I'll show you the outcome. And with the incentives of social media being the race to maximize eyeballs and engagement, that would obviously produce the race to the bottom of the brainstem, shortening attention spans, bite-sized video, a more extreme and outrageous content, sexualization of young people, the whole 9 yards, everything.
Hyperpartisanship.
And all of it happened. Like, there's just a moment just to sort of soak in. Literally everything that we said was going to happen, happened. And it's not like we could predict all of it, but directionally you could know the contours of where we were going. And part of this relates to, I think, the mistake we make in technology. We get obsessed and seduced by the possible of a new technology, but we don't look at the probable of the incentives and what's likely to happen. So the possible of social media is, well, surely if we give everyone access to instant information at their fingertips and connect people to their friends, we're going to have the least lonely generation we've ever had. We're going to have the most enlightened and informed society we've ever had. And obviously, the opposite of both of those things happened.
exists to help everyday Americans make it. When you get paid on your terms, your world opens up. And your people.
And that's not like, oh, we got this mistake anyone could have made. All you have to do, to quote Donella Meadows and sort of systems thinking, a system is what a system does. The system of social media was not optimizing to reduce loneliness and to create the most enlightened society. It was optimizing for just what is the perfect post, next video or tweet to keep you scrolling, doom scrolling by yourself, esophagus compressed on a Tuesday night. And that's gotten us the world that we're now living in. Right. So we'll get to AI, but basically the important lesson here is that, and kind of what motivates me with this movie is you kind of have two choices. You either get a Chernobyl, which is a disaster from AI that then causes us to clamp down and to do something different, or you have enough basic clear-eyed wisdom and discernment and foresight, you know where this is going, that you can say, okay, let's actually create guardrails in advance of a catastrophe. And so 82 or 83, about what would happen if there was nuclear war between the Soviet Union and the United States. That film was the largest watched synchronous television event in human history. Primetime television, it was Tuesday night, 7 p.m. You probably watched it.
Yeah, I remember watching it at the time, and also famously it got Reagan's attention. He was worried as a result. Yeah,
that's right. So Reagan, I think, in the White House kind of viewing room or something, and in his biography, he writes it for several weeks after watching it. Because you're confronted with the possibility of annihilation of our species in a real way. And it's important to know, it's not like we didn't know what nuclear war was. Everyone knew what the atomic bomb looked like from the photos and videos of Hiroshima and all the nuclear tests. It's not like people couldn't imagine it, but there was a way that the actual consequences of continual escalation in nuclear wargaming, that we weren't really facing the visceral consequences of that. It kind of sat in humanity's collective shadow, like our Jungian shadow. We didn't want to confront film festival or something in France, and he said, I decided I'd rather be around to see it than to not. It's kind of this surrender. It's kind of this death wish. It's kind of like, I can't stop it, so I decided I'd rather be there to have built it and have my God be the thing that took over.
Never, and I mean never ask, how are you? How are you? How's work going?
This actually is a fundamental thing that we should double click on for a second, which is the unique thing about AI game theory that's different than nuclear game theory, which is that the omni lose-lose scenario from nuclear game theory is like, I know as a mammal that you also don't want to annihilate all life on planet Earth. And the fact that I know that about you without even talking to you means that there's some element of trustworthiness that we will try to coordinate to something else because we agree on some implicit level there's an omni lose-lose thing that's worth avoiding.
Yeah.
Here's the problem with AI. If I start by believing that it's inevitable and nothing can stop it, then if I'm the one who built the suicide machine, I'm not an evil person because I'm only doing something that would have been done anyway. So I have an ethical off-ramp in that decision. And the second part is, unlike if you literally made it like a matrix where you just get the point scores of, you get negative infinity if we get nuclear war in the nuclear scenario. With AI, let's say we're in this race and the DeepSeek CEO's there and the Elon's there and Sam's there and they're racing to do it. They actually all believe it could wipe out humanity. But if they raced and got there first, then think about the scenario. Humanity's wiped out, but there now exists an AI that speaks Chinese instead of English or has the DeepSeek's CEO's DNA rather than
the end of the
Elon's
world
DNA.
has your logo on it.
That's right. Exactly. Good. Well said. So the end of the world has your DNA or your logo on it. And I want people to get this because if people got this, they would see that there might be an implicit way that people might think that, like, when push comes to shove, cooler minds will prevail because you can trust that the people at the top will do whatever it takes to steer away from this and will steer away in time. But what I want people to get is you can't trust that because these people actually subconsciously, I think there's psychological damage here that I think they subconsciously have pre-accepted this kind of end of the world and end of their life. And that if they got to be the one who built the digital god that literally was replacing humanity in some legacy, in some world, I don't know whose history book that exists or anyone's conscious going to read that, but they got to go down in history in that way. And what that does is it should motivate the rest of the 8 billion people on planet Earth to say, I'm sorry to swear, but just fuck that. We don't want that. If you want your children to live and you care about the world as it exists, and you love the things that are sacred about life and you're connected to something, that is at risk with this small number of people who are racing to this negative outcome.
Well, a lot of these guys seem to have had their formative educational experiences reading science fiction.
Yes.
I mean, it's like you read a lot of science fiction, you read a little Ayn Rand, and you're self-taught in basically everything else. And to my eye, you form a very weird set of kind of ethical, weights. You're just not enough of the best parts of culture have gotten into your head,
right?
Such that you can actually come to a real understanding of what human life is good for, right? I mean, you literally meet people who are agnostic as to whether or not it would be a bad thing if we all got destroyed and ground up in this new machinery and our descendants were robots wherein the consciousness may or may not exist.
And they're totally
fine with maybe that. That's sort of an interesting way to end this movie.
I mean, you get a semblance of that when Peter Thiel is asked the question by Ross Douthat in the New York Times, should the human species endure?
Yeah, it's a real,
and he stutters
it's a real
for
stumper,
17 seconds. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I think people need to get this because the point you're bringing up is both at a level of their conditioning, what the system that they're inside of, the game that they're being forced to play, kind of domesticates them for ruthless game playing. Game theory has already colonized us into machines, machine-like reasoning, where we're not connected to our own humanity. We're not connected to common care for the rest of it. And in fact, it's an active devaluing of being human. Right. I'll give you an example. Sam Altman was asked at the AI Safety Summit in India recently, what do you think of the fact that it takes so much energy to run these data centers? You know what his response was? He said, well, it takes a lot of energy and resources to grow a human over 20 years.
I did hear this, yeah.
Well, and I actually want to point to something here, Sam, because it's really important, because I want people to get why we're heading to an anti-human future and why you can be crystal clear that that's going to happen. Are you familiar with the essay by Luke Drago and Rudolph Lane called The Intelligence Curse?
Yeah, actually, I did read that.
Yeah.
But explain that premise.
Let's just bring this out for people, because I think it's really critical. So the idea is there's something in economics called the resource curse. So if you're Libya, Congo, South Sudan, Venezuela, you first discover there's a resource. Maybe it's diamonds, maybe it's oil, maybe it's rare minerals. And that's a blessing. And you're like, oh my God, we're going to get all this GDP growth and we're going to get this prosperity. But what happens is if you don't have the appropriate institutions and sort of social fabric and investments of people, suddenly, let's say 70% of your GDP is coming from mining that resource. And now in a government, they have this choice when they've got money coming in. Do I invest more into the extraction of that resource, or do I invest into my people who have nothing to do with the GDP now?
Yeah.
And the answer is I'm going to invest in the resource.
Yeah. You basically don't need your people, and you don't have to be responsible to their interests because
that's right.
You're pulling your wealth directly out of the ground.
Exactly. You're pulling your wealth out of the ground, not from human labor, and not from human development, not from kind of the enlightenment of your society in any way. And so there's this kind of perverse incentive there, and we've seen this in how these failed states have kind of, you end up with countries where you have shanty towns and war, while you have this.
And even in success, you wind up with authoritarian,
right?
To one or another degree, places you wouldn't want to live. I mean, again, even in the case of Saudi Arabia, you're talking about what has been. I mean, it's opening up a little now, but it's been a highly repressive society, and it can be that way because it doesn't have to respond to the needs of its people.
Well, and that's an example of a society that's trying now a little bit to go the other way. And I'm by no means an expert on Saudi Arabia, but it's an example of trying to beat this. So there is a parallel to the resource curse that, again, the authors Luke Drago and Rudolph Lane wrote about called the intelligence curse. So what happens, and this is not that hypothetical, where a couple years from now, much of the GDP growth coming in this country is coming from AI. Let's say 50% or 70% is coming from AI. Do I have any incentive to invest in the education, healthcare, childcare, development, safety of my people? No.
Right.
And the companies don't need you for their labor anymore, so your bargaining power went away. And the governments don't need you for tax revenue because that's not where they're getting the GDP growth. So it's not just that you aren't investing in your people, it's that your people lose political power. And what this is so critical to get is like, that's why I can say confidently we're heading to an anti-human future. We're going to get new cancer drugs, new material science, new antibiotics at the same time that you get mass disempowerment of regular people. And you're going to have, 8 soon-to-be trillionaires hoard all of the wealth, and there's not going to be much left for regular people unless we actively lock in a political infrastructure that says that we want to create the intelligence dividend, not the intelligence curse, kind of like what Norway did with the Sovereign Wealth Fund.
Right.
And
Alaska gives
Alaska, that was the
people-
other example I was thinking of. Yeah. So I just wanted to say that because that links up with Sam Altman saying, it links perfectly with him saying, well, it takes a lot of energy and resources to grow a human. Like, this leads you to a devaluing of humans. This leads you to the seductive feeling that maybe humans are parasites. And by the way, we've been running that social media machine for the last 20 years, so now you degrade what it looks like to be human. And so we're not very inspired by what it means to be human
Well, you've
anymore
got a bunch
either.
of these guys like Elon running around wondering whether we're in a simulation and whether everyone else is just an NPC.
I was just going to say, I mean, even just calling the other people on planet Earth NPCs or non-player characters is a devaluing of humans. So part of like this rite of passage that AI is inviting us into is we have to reconnect with our fundamental humanity. We have to actually value and also rediscover and celebrate what is it valuable to be human. And not just in some kind of kumbaya way, but in the sense that the human downgrading, which is the term we came up with to describe the kind of social media degradation of the human condition, the shortened attention spans, doom scrolling, lonely, not creative, just like dopamine hijacked version of us, the kind of WALL-E humans. That is not humans. That's what we have been domesticated into by, ironically, first contact with a runaway AI that was perversely incentivized. And I feel like if you shatter that funhouse mirror and you realize that we're actually much more capable, creative, we're the same raw potential that is able to do amazing things, but we've been living in this sort of perverse, vicious loop of the more of our, and ironically, it's an earlier version of the intelligence curse, except it's like the social media curse. When GDP comes from these 5 tech companies domesticating and downgrading humans, you get another version of that. And I'm saying all this because I want to actually inspire people that if we don't want this anti-human future we're headed towards, then we should see this clearly right now and say we have to steer right now. It's not too late. It's obviously extremely far down the timeline. I'm not going to lie about any of that. But it would take crystal clarity to again steer. And again, the alternative is you wait for a Chernobyl and then you hope you have steering after that. But I'm not convinced we will.
Yeah, I mean, a Chernobyl scale event might be the best case scenario at this point. I mean, something that gets everyone's attention in a transnational way. I mean, something that actually brings China and America to the table with, ashen faces, wondering how they can collaborate to move the final yards into the end zone safely.
Yeah.
You need something. It's hard to imagine what is going to solve this coordination problem short of something that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw your stories. Lessons are personalized to you. With over 100K tutors, you're sure to find.
So if I could, there already are, as you I'm sure are well aware, these international dialogues on AI safety, Track 2 dialogues between U.S. and Chinese researchers, but they're happening at a low level. They're not blessed by the tops of both countries.
There's not there's not a regime of regulation, certainly on our side, that is going to force anyone to do anything.
No, and I think, actually, to be fair, I think China actually is quite concerned about these. But to be clear, the Chinese Communist Party does not want to lose control.
Right.
That is like their number one value. So they do not want to let, and they will not let AI run amok. They will probably regulate in time. But they're probably looking at us and saying, what are you doing?
We're the scary ones in this
and notice that they lose if we screw it up, and we lose if they screw it up. So again, forget kumbaya, we need coordination, and a treaty's going to happen. No, even if you don't do that, you just come from pure self-interest. From pure self-interest, we can't afford to get this wrong. And as Asa, my co-founder, says in the film, the AI doc, this is essentially the last mistake we ever get to make. So let's not make it.
So what are you expecting in the near term? Let's leave concerns about alignment aside, unless you think we're going to plunge into superintelligence in the next 12 months. What will you be unsurprised to see in the next year or two? And what are you most worried about?
I mean, we're furthering down the trajectory of mass joblessness, which maybe we should just briefly articulate why there's always this narrative. It's just important to debunk these common myths, which are essentially forms of motivated reasoning and looking for comfort. We're comfort seeking, not truth seeking. So one of the ways we're comfort seeking is like, hey, there's a narrative out there that 200 years ago all of us were farmers, and now only 2% of whatever the population is a farmer, and we always find something new to do. The tractor came along. We have the elevator man. We used to have the elevator man. Now we have the automated elevator. We used to have bank tellers, have the automated teller machines. Jeff Hinton was wrong about radiology, blah, 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 blah. What's different about AI is that this kind of artificial general intelligence is that it will automate all forms of human cognitive labor all at the same time, or roughly progressing on that trajectory. You still get jaggedness, which is the term in the field of, slightly more progress, for example, on programming than you do on, I don't know, complicated social science issues or something like that. But what that means is, a tractor didn't automate finance, marketing, consulting, programming all at the same time.
Yeah.
AI does do that. And who's going to retrain faster, the humans or the AIs? So,
See, even they don't get it. In this AI scenario, we're the horse, AI is the car. Okay, you have to understand. We're the horse, AI is the car. All right? They don't even get it.
say that because it's worth debunking this idea that humans are always going to find something else to do. We'll do something else, and it's great for people to retrain and learn to vibe code, but AI is using all that training data from all the people vibe coding and using that to make the better system.
Yeah.
You bring up the whole transition between the farming, but what you miss is we are the horse, AI is the car. The horses never came back.
You know, one of the most popular jobs, actually we're in LA right now, and one of the most popular jobs in LA that was covered in the LA Times recently, I'm sure you saw the story, they call them arm farms.
No, I didn't see that.
And so this is basically someone straps a GoPro to their top of their head, and then they just fold laundry or do tasks with their hands.
Oh, so that
Essentially,
robots are learning how to do that?
That's right. So essentially the number one job in the world would be training our replacement. So essentially we all have the job of coffin builders. We're essentially, our number one job is we're in the coffin making industry to replace us with AIs that will do that job more effectively and for cheaper in the future. If we don't want that, and obviously there's going to be things that we still value in this new world that are human to human interaction. A nurse, we don't want a robot nurse, we want a human nurse. And we can definitely train more nurses. And so I don't want to say that it's 100% of all automation is going to happen. But the goal of these companies is not to augment human work. This is so critical for people to get. You know, you heard J.D. Vance say in the speech when he first came into office at the first AI summit in France, and he said, you know, AI will augment the American worker. It's going to support workers to be more productive. But what is the business model of OpenAI and Anthropic and these other companies? If we're again using this Charlie Munger incentive framework to predict their choices, like what is their business model? And people say, oh, okay, there I am using ChatGPT. What's their business model? How do they make money? Oh, I pay them $20 a month for the subscription. That must be how they're going to make money.
No.
But that's actually not what it is, because the $20 a month, if everybody paid it, that would not make up all the money and debt that they've taken on as a company.
Right.
It wouldn't work. Okay, so that's now. So what's the next one? What about advertising? Let's do the Google thing. Let's do mass advertising for all these AI models embedded in the results. We're going to have, this is going to be the new search. Search is one of the most profitable business models in the world. Maybe that will do it, but that doesn't also make back the amount of money these companies have taken on. The only thing that makes back the amount of money these companies have taken on is to replace all human economic labor, to take over the $50 trillion labor economy. That is the prize. It's artificial general intelligence, which means replacing human work, not augmenting human work.
Right.
It's just so critical for people to get that, because again, this gets you the sort of sealing the exits on why we're heading to an anti-human future. That's my goal here. My goal here is just if you can see the anti-human future clearly, if everybody in the world got that, I honestly think, Sam, if every human in the world got that, I do think that we would steer to do something else.
Well, it all falls out of what we mean by the concept of general intelligence, right? So once you admit that we're building something that by definition is more intelligent than we are,
yes,
right? I mean, and any increment of progress, provided we just keep making that progress, is eventually going to deliver that result, leaving aside the alignment problem, let's say it's just perfectly aligned, right? We build it perfectly the first time. It does exactly what we want or what we think we want. It should be obvious that this is unlike any other technology because intelligence is the basis of everything else we do. I mean, it's science. It's the generation of each new technology. It will build the future machine that will build the future machine.
Right.
It's the only thing that's left standing is what we care still has a human provenance, right? So like in a situation, I'm not even sure nurses in the end survive contact with this principle, but for those things where we are always going to want the human in the loop, right? Or the human to be the origin of the product, whether it's, music or novels or, stage plays. Maybe I don't think we're never going to want to see robots on stage acting Shakespeare.
I don't think so.
Maybe it's also sports. We're never going to want to see, robots in the NBA because we just want to see what the best people can do in the NBA. But still, you're talking about, 1% of the human employment there.
Exactly.
So there are jobs that will be canceled, and they'll be canceled for all time in the same way that being the best chess player in any room has been canceled for all time.
That's right.
That is now a machine, and it's always going to be a machine.
Yep. And it's important to note, you don't need that much automation of that much labor and that much unemployment to create political upheaval. So it only took, as I understand it, 20% unemployment for 3 years to create fascism in Nazi Germany. I'm saying this because something I actually don't understand, Sam, and I'm curious, is if I'm the U.S. and China, essentially, we have this metaphor sometimes in our work at Center for Humane Technology that AI is like simultaneously giving yourself steroids that pump up your external muscles while also giving you organ failure. So, for example, it's like I take the AI drug for my economy. I'm doping my economy with AI. And now I just pumped up my GDP by 10%. I just pumped up my military weapons with autonomous weapons. I just pumped up my scientific developments. And now I'm way ahead on science. So I just pumped up my external markers of power. But the cost of that was deepfakes and no one knows what's true. I have 100 million jobs that don't have a transition plan that are disrupted. I have maybe a bioweapon or something that goes off my society. Essentially, I'm getting internal organ failure at the same time that I'm getting external steroids. And so something that I don't understand is that essentially we're in a race for competing between nations for this steroids to organ failure kind of ratio. Meaning it's like the US and China, if they keep racing without any constraints, get into something I think of as like mutually assured